I know it's only been 2 days, but I'm getting real sick and tired of this team being sick and tired. And I imagine they probably are too. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where the Seattle Kraken lose the second half of a back-to-back 5-2 in New York against the Rangers. A team that is still injured on top of being sick and tired at the end of this road trip, still missing the 3 players that they were missing from last game at the start of it, with Matty Beniers now being put on the IR. Still Burakovsky out day to day, so it's at least a promising sign that he's not going to be out for a long time, with one player going to the IR and Burakovsky not joining him, and Vince Dunn also day to day out for this one as well. At least they got Adam Larsson back, even though he was clearly not 100%. But unfortunately, the NHL schedule waits for no one. Unless it's COVID, then it does wait quite a while. But aside from that, it doesn't care if you're sick, tired, injured, whatever it is. The NHL schedule keeps going, and for the Kraken, it just could not have come at a worse time, as they do have these 2 games and then a long road trip, well, a long flight, continuing the road trip to the end of it in Edmonton. At least then they do get 2 days off before starting a homestand against the Leafs, but it is 3 tough opponents at a time where the team is just not at 100% no matter what they try. Of course, they also get 2 days off before their next opponent, and then things do lighten up on the schedule for a little bit. But for the Kraken, they're trying to tough it out, and for what it's worth, I do think they played better in this game than the one previous in Pittsburgh, but it still just wasn't enough. Lineup-wise for the Kraken, it's the same group of guys that started the game in Pittsburgh, except Drieger's in net instead of Decord, and for the first time in 3 games, they all made it to the end of the game, even if, again, a number of them were definitely fighting through some stuff. So with that being the case, and this being the second half of a back-to-back, nearing the end of a long road trip against a very good Rangers team, it shouldn't come as too much of a surprise that the Rangers got off to the better start through the first few minutes, and for the Kraken, pretty much the one key for them in this game was just keep the Rangers off the power play, as this team has pretty much lived and died offensively by their power play. Unfortunately, that plan kind of falls apart a few minutes in, when the Rangers, with momentum, end up on the power play with Schultz heading to the box. Thankfully, though, the Kraken penalty kill remains hot and does a good job killing off this first power play for the second best power play unit in the entire NHL. So Schultz comes out of the box, gets back in the play, and then sends the puck right over the boards clean from the defensive end and heads right back to the box. The Rangers back to their second back-to-back power play, starting out this first period. And on this power play, well, the Kraken do an even better job of killing it off to start things out. Eventually, in the back half of it, they get into the Kraken end of the ice. It's Panarin with the puck. The Kraken key completely in on him, and forget about another Ranger player crashing in on the far side. Panarin gets the pass through, and it's tipped in without much of anything Drieger can do about it. It's a power play goal for the Rangers, and they lead 1-0. But at least this time, unlike what happened in Pittsburgh, the Kraken are able to prevent the Rangers from getting any momentum out of this, and in fact draw a power play of their own not long after this goal is scored. And on that power play, they nearly score right away, though that is saved by Shesterkin, who had a fantastic night in net for the Rangers. Either way, with this power play, the Kraken aren't able to get much going after that first great save by Shesterkin, or at least they weren't able to get anything going until Bjorkstrand intercepts a DDD pass by the Rangers in the neutral zone, which kind of tells you how things were going on this power play, but he intercepts that pass, creates a 3-on-2 rush chance the other way for the Kraken on the power play, gets the pass out to McCann, who then finds Eberle as the third man coming in. Eberle winds up and fires off a shot that beats Shesterkin into the far side of the net to give the Kraken the power play goal and even things up at 1. So Eberle picks up his 6th of the season, as he has really started to heat up here of late, kind of the only Kraken player doing that while everyone else is sick, other than McCann, who gets the primary assist here, his 11th of the season, and Bjorkstrand picks up his 23rd. And the Kraken keep that score tied for 28 seconds. As Rangers get back into the offensive end, Borgen, I think it is, that actually breaks up a pass between the Rangers as they pass it around the outside, but that broken up pass goes right to a Ranger up by the blue line. He fires off the shot after holding it for a little while, and it just beats Drieger into the back of the net to give the Rangers right back the lead. It's 2-1. Now, to be perfectly honest with this goal, while it is not ideal that the Kraken are allowing that pressure in the first place right after scoring and tying things up, it's just a save that Drieger has to have. It's from well out. He has time to see the shot coming, and while there is a bit of a screen, a guy crossing in front of him right before the shot happens, it certainly looks on the replay like he is able to see that shot coming. Even still, it beats him to the near side and maybe glances off of his arm, but even still, it's in the back of the net, and the Rangers, within 30 seconds, have taken back that lead. Though I will say, once again, it's a Rangers lead that nearly does not last very long, as the Kraken press themselves for a response goal with a couple of back-to-back fantastic shifts in the offensive end, one of which probably should have scored, as I think it was McCann that finds Tatar on the backside, and Tatar just forks it a little bit wide, or maybe a little bit high, just missing what was certainly a partially open net, which certainly was at least a little bit frustrating, or maybe just more of a bummer that the Kraken weren't able to even things right back up with that great chance and pressure immediately after the Rangers' goal. But I suppose as far as the general flow of play is concerned, it does even itself out, as a few minutes later, the Rangers get a very similar chance back the other way, in fact, an even better scoring chance with more empty net, that's also forked wide, so the Kraken dodge a pretty big bullet there, and in the end, we do get to that first intermission, with the score still 2-1 Rangers. So we head to the second period where the Kraken pretty much dominate the flow of play for the entire period. Aside from the odd shift here and there for the Rangers, but the Kraken really do hold onto this puck and hold that offensive zone for the vast majority of this period, especially early on. They have a couple of back-to-back shifts here to start this second period that the only way it doesn't end up in the net is that fantastic performance from Shesterkin, as the Kraken put at least 5 or 6 shots on Shesterkin throughout those first few minutes, and that's just the ones that end up on Shesterkin. There were a number of shots blocked by the Rangers, and a few that go wide of the net, even one that I think hits the post. The Kraken doing everything they can to even things up here early on, but just cannot solve Igor in net. Eventually, although the Kraken do maintain the momentum throughout this period, however, in the back half of it, a couple of rushes back the other way end up making the difference, because while the Kraken could get all the pressure, what they couldn't do was finish. Meanwhile, the Rangers, it seemed like all they could do was finish. First Rangers goal of the second period, third of the game, comes just past the halfway mark of the period, as the Rangers get a rare, in the second period at least, opportunity to set up in the Kraken end of the ice, and it doesn't take long before a shot comes from well out, and although in live action it looked like it got tipped in front, on the slow-mo replay it looks like it just gets through a screen, and there definitely was some amount of screen in front of Drieger here at the net front, but it gets through that screen, and although Drieger is once again able to reach over and get at least a piece of it, it goes off of his arm and into the top corner of the net to give the Rangers the goal and the 3-1 lead. And then just a couple minutes later, once again against the flow of play and following pretty closely a good Kraken chance at the other end of the ice, a breakdown in the neutral zone for the Kraken leads to a 2-on-1 rush the other way. That's a little bit of a 2-on-2. Tolvanen is kind of able to get towards the pass, but Zibanejad makes a fantastic pass out into the slot, where Kakko gets a one-time shot. There's no chance for Drieger on this one. It's into the back of the net. The Rangers have the 4-1 lead, which they would take to the intermission, but it does make this one pretty hard for the Kraken to come back, needing 3 just to get to overtime in the third, which obviously they're never able to get. The Rangers do a pretty good job defensively of not allowing the Kraken to get much through the first half of the third. Eventually, Seattle gets stuff going kind of in the middle of the third period, some momentum their way, finally getting some of that, well, pressure in the offensive end that we saw in the second period, and eventually end up with a power play out of it. And this time for the Kraken on the power play, it does not take them long at all. Although they do lose the opening faceoff of the power play, the Rangers clear the puck, but the Kraken right back into the offensive end, Eberle carrying it in through a couple of Rangers players, dumping it to McCann along the boards. McCann just kind of carries the puck along the boards, then circles up by the net, looking to shoot, gets up to the net, and then just whips a backhand into the top of the net, past Shesterkin on the far side, giving the Kraken the power play goal. A beautiful little backhand shot, or chip really, from McCann right up in front of the crease. Gives the Kraken their second goal of the game, their second power play goal of the game, as they go 2 for 2 on the power play. The second time that Eberle and McCann connect for a goal on the power play. McCann the goal this time, his 17th of the season. And the Kraken are at least in with a chance here with about 5.5 minutes left. And then just about a minute later, the Kraken press into the offensive end again. The puck up to the net, Alexiak the shot, and it's shut down by Shesterkin. A very nice save, maybe his best of the game. But in the end, it's just too little, too late from the Kraken. They aren't able to get on the board again, eventually going empty net with a faceoff in the New York end of the ice. But the Rangers, I don't know if they win that faceoff. Either way, they end up with the puck again after McCann tries to dump it in, but that's intercepted. They find the empty net to make it 5-2, and that's our final score. The Kraken drop their second straight in 2 days, following that 9-game win streak and 13-game point streak. Though again, it does have to be said they are really battling through some stuff here, especially with the 3 key injuries, and Vince Dunn in particular, I think they've really missed in these last 2 games offensively. But even missing Beniers now on IR, and obviously Burakovsky certainly doesn't help either. Plus, there's the illness going through the locker room that you can definitely tell is affecting a couple of the players, and from what Hackstall said, is affecting more of them than you can even tell. Plus, it's the second half of a back-to-back on the end of a long road trip, so there are a lot of excuses, but at the end of the day, it's 2 points that they aren't able to get in the standings, and it doesn't matter how you end up getting those losses. They definitely hurt for a team that has made a huge dent and gotten themselves all the way back in this wild card race, but they are still very much in the thick and on the outside of that wild card race, so they need to keep things up here and not fall too far behind or start to slow things down and get complacent with all of those points they were able to get over this last stretch. I don't think that's going to happen, but it does come at a tough time here with these injuries and everything else going on that they face the Rangers, Oilers, and Leafs in 3 straight games. So hopefully they're able to pick up a win in at least one of those before getting admittedly a bit of an easier schedule for a couple weeks following that. Anyway, with all that being said, I do think there are some positives to take away from this game. I certainly think the team played better in this game than they did in Pittsburgh. They really did control that second period for almost the entirety of it, and yeah, they did have a few defensive gaffes in this game and just kind of mental lapses that we really haven't seen from them since the beginning of December, and I think a lot of that is the fatigue and illness part of it, just not as sharp mentally, and that does show up mostly on the defensive end, but they were at least showing a little bit more energy and offensive desire in that second period to try to get things evened up. In the end, they just weren't able to get that finish that the team on the other side was able to find at the other end of the ice. So really, at least to me anyway, it wasn't a terribly played game from the Kraken, and considering everything they were going through in this game that we've already mentioned and the opponent they were up against, I think they played decently well. It just came up against a really hard opponent that was able to take advantage of the opportunities that they were given. And for the Kraken, it is at least a positive sign that they aren't just falling back into that team that we saw in the late part of November and early part of December. I honestly think they did play a better game than most of the games during that losing streak and even early part of the season. It just didn't work out for them in this one, and given a healthier team, the outcome might have been different. In the end, though, it is for the second game in a row a loss for the Kraken, and that definitely sucks. But there still are some guys that I think played well enough to get stars in this one, so we'll move on to the Kraken 3 stars, where as always, if you do want to be a part of helping decide these Kraken 3 stars, you can help support this channel a little bit more than you already are by watching the video to this point, by going to the link down below to Patreon and helping support over there. And with the 3 stars, for me, the first star has to be Jordan Eberle. He has been probably the best Kraken player here over these last 3 or 4 games. He's been absolutely on a tear. I mean, I don't know if he's one of the guys that's battling through sickness at this point, but it certainly doesn't look like it, as he is very much standing out as one of the few Kraken players that really has his legs under him. One of the other guys that is true of as well, and I said this earlier on, would be Jared McCann. He's my second star in this game, both of them with a goal and an assist in this game, both of them 2 points on the power play. And then the third star, I mean, I honestly probably could not go with a third star in this game, but I think that Oliver Bjorkstrand had a good enough game. He also gets a point on that first goal for the Kraken. So I'll give Bjorkstrand the third star. He also played pretty well for them and has been one of the better Kraken players. Obviously, they're all-star of the season, so one of the better Kraken players to this point, and definitely a key part of getting them back into this season halfway through. Oh, and also real quick here before we close things out, as for how Drieger did in net here, obviously spelling Decord, being it that's the second half of a back-to-back, we'll be seeing Decord a lot more here as the Kraken have quite a while before their next back-to-back. But I thought Drieger was okay, not great. I don't think as bad as his stats look. He ends up giving up 4 goals on 22 shots, so yeah, an 818 save percentage is certainly not anything to write home about. But 2 at least of the goals were certainly not ones that he ever had a chance on, just defensive breakdowns either in the neutral zone or in the Kraken end of the ice that led to those goals. And then a couple that, one of them I think is a save we would have seen Decord make, but still isn't an easy save. And then that second goal in the first period is definitely one that I think he should have had. But at the same time, he has been sitting on the bench watching the Kraken play and only getting to play any hockey during practice, which the Kraken have not been able to do here with all this travel of late. So it's somewhat understandable that he would come in and not look fantastic, which I think was kind of the case in this game. Either way, with that being said, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below with this game, how we're feeling with the team, if you're also battling through things. Fortunately, at least for me, I am starting to feel better, so it'd be nice if the team could rebound as well. Hacksaw pointing out after the game, though, that that's just what their team is going through health-wise. It's not something you bounce back through overnight, so yeah, hopefully at least the extra day off there between the Edmonton game and that one at home against the Leafs will help the team get at least a little bit more healthy, not only from sickness, but also injury. Either way, we'll find out. Until then, if you've made it to this point, thank you very much for watching. If you did like or enjoy the video, the buttons for that kind of stuff down below help support the channel. Like and subscribe, of course. I'd appreciate you using them. Until the next game in Edmonton, stay safe out there, be good to each other, God bless, and go Kraken.